Welcome to Disrupted Science, the occasional conversation between the authors of the upcoming book, How the Internet Disrupted Science, now available for pre-order. I'm Kent Anderson, here with my co-author Joy Moore, and today is Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. Hey, Joy.
Hey Kent, how's it going?
It's just us today. How do you like
I
that?
know.
Isn't
Oh,
that
it's
awesome?
good.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can be sassy.
Yeah. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was great, thanks. Yeah, we smoked the turkey. It turned out great, and everybody was happy, healthy, and fun. So you?
It was really good. Yeah, it was very quiet. And it was a little Thanksgiving, but I got to play a lot of pickleball
Okay.
for all the
I
other.
I knew you'd be swinging that drumstick, bashing
No,
people around. Did you beat a lot of people?
I did. Yes.
Nice,
I came
nice.
in, I think I came in officially third.
Ooh,
Um, but
bronze
in one
medal.
tournament. But it was really fun. And it's great to see people who are home and, out and about and doing
Yeah,
things like that. So,
yeah. The social aspect's great. Yeah, and I've started working. The Christmas tree lot in town opened up, and I volunteer for the Civic Club, and so I was dishing Christmas trees a few days a week this time of year, and it's always fun because you little kids in Santa hats and families and their funny stories. The dad driving into the garage with the tree on top of the car still, and how the ring doorbell captures that kind of stuff and it turns into a whole TikTok thing. And so dads are never off the hook. And so it's just funny stuff like that and seeing people and helping them pick out a tree and all that stuff. So yeah.
so do you have any advice on how to pick out the best Christmas tree?
Well, at our particular lot, they come tagged. So they come down from Nova Scotia and they're all balsam. And the tags have three grades on them. So a solid color is the top grade, meaning a straight trunk, full tree, well shaped, fresh.
Hmm.
Then it's a stripe, which means there's probably a kind of a bald spot or a imperfection
Oh,
somewhere. So there's kind of
oh,
a,
there's
you know,
disclosure?
there's disclosure, and then there's dotted tags, which says that maybe the trunk's a little bent, or it's a funky tree, but it's still a very good tree. But it's just you pay lower based on the tag, so you get a little less if you pay a little less. And so yeah, that's how we do it. I don't know, but look for that kind of stuff because I think most tree farms do that because they have pricing and quality control things in place, all through the supply chain. So Christmas tree
Well,
supply chains, look at us being all businesslike.
I just learned a lot. I don't know.
I was just surprised at how many Santa hats were on people. It was really great. And the dog and people bring their dogs, which is always
Hmm.
fantastic. And so I've learned that there are more than there are at least three dogs in town named Roo, and all of them are Australian shepherds. So because I think the kangaroo thing gets people, the
Oh,
Aussie. I don't
okay.
know, but yeah. So there's
Yeah.
at least three roos in town, and they're all energetic little dogs. But yeah, so it's lots of fun. I love this time of year. So anyhow, all right. But first, this is our first time in a long time. We have some book updates.
Yeah, let's talk about that. It's exciting. We're getting into production, and all of you publishers out there might appreciate
The
Kent
fact
and
that
I
we're
have been
going through it.
we've been waiting on tenterhooks since what, May? It's like,
Yeah.
where's our production schedule? What's it going to be? Like,
Well,
we want the dates. We want to know like the turnaround time, and now we've got it.
and
It's
we've got
great.
it. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
great, and it's really fun because it's the day before Christmas Eve. We have to
Right.
start doing stuff, and it's like, oh, I can tell that this is like, yeah, kind of how it is.
It's
But that's
always been
fine.
how it has. Haven't you had that experience? I have. Like every time there's like a major proposal or
Hmm.
some big turnaround due, it's like, okay, everybody else is off. But
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Kathy used to get really, really frustrated when during holidays because I'd be on the computer all the time because it's like we've got to launch on January 1st, and I've got to do all those
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And she's like, well, okay, I guess it's paying for Christmas. And yeah, kind of is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've got the production schedule. Again, it's still I hopeful, being optimistic, that the book went on pre-sale well before the production schedule came out. And our agent seems very happy with that. So I think we've
Yes.
got maybe have a good book here, but
I think we do.
and we've also been scheduling book signings.
Yep.
And we've gotten really quick interest in those. So we have three on the docket in three different states already, New England states so far, but we've got outreach to others. If you're listening to this and you want to sign us up for a book signing, let us know.
Hmm.
And we're looking forward to those. They'll start in July. We've got July, August, and probably September, at least one signing in each of those months.
Hmm.
And then we have a new website for all of our little projects, disruptedscience.com, if you want to see everything we're doing. So,
Yeah, that brings it all together.
yeah, our media empire, as we call it.
Please
Hey,
visit our media empire for all the latest information.
that's right. So yeah, lots of stuff to look forward to, and we get to do the index, which I'm actually looking forward to.
I know, and that was one of our caveats in the publishing contract is that we have to do the index
Yeah,
ourselves.
I
So
love doing indexes. We'll have to see if we have compatible indexing styles. That might be the
I think
straw
I'm
that
just
breaks it.
gonna take your lead,
Okay.
I'm not gonna fight with you on that. I've got some
Oh,
ideas, but I will.
okay, folks, you heard it here first. All right, so let's talk about we get to just we're picking a topic today that just kind of crept up on us, and we thought, there's something here to talk about. So we aren't sure where this is going to go, but we're going to talk about it. And it's,
Yeah,
you want to,
we're talking about metrics, and we're talking about the alt metrics and the
yeah,
potential craziness that's happening there.
yeah,
And
and their
and
Bluesky account is especially.
yeah,
Uh,
so we've got
so
a pretty good understanding of, we think, of the foundations of Altmetrics and its parent company. Um, but most recently, we've been going, the heck?
yeah, so let's get into it. All right, so here we go. Altmetric, are you okay? All right. So we want to talk a little bit about Altmetric and kind of our outside view of what we've seen, especially on Bluesky. But also we're going to talk a little bit about metrics in general and scientometrics and all of that kind of stuff. So just a little bit of background. Altmetric was originally an app entered into Elsevier's Apps for Science competition in 2011. It won, and the prize money allowed you and 80 to create the full version of the Altmetric Explorer, which launched in 2012. Digital Science invested in it and ultimately acquired it in 2016. It remains privately held, we think, as part of Holtzbrink.
So can we just put that in context? So what was happening in 2011? Why did you and colleagues, which there were a number of them,
Right. So
come up with
2010, there
this?
was the Altmetric Manifesto or something,
Hmm.
and that kind of kicked off the idea that it introduced the attention economy as a way to measure scientific outputs, which is a dubious proposition from the start.
But just at the
Okay.
time, it was exciting, right? Because it
Yeah.
was the first time that, science had been on the internet for people to share for just a few years. And
Right.
so the idea of, well, if people are interested in it, then why don't we measure that? And why don't we give that a score?
Right.
And they were reacting to the impact factor, which is an embedded citation analysis that takes a few years. And so these folks who were very internet forward
Right.
were
Jason
saying,
Cream, I think, was one of them. Yeah.
yeah, we're saying like, well, science doesn't have to wait for bean counters.
Right.
at Web
And
of
two
Science.
years lagging
Yeah.
indicator.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's find out what's hot now.
Right.
And so it was kind of cool at the time, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it felt cool. I think it spurred a lot of publishers to get social media managers and social media accounts, and because there was an incentive now that was pretty clear and measurable. And their tagline was and still is, your influence tracked, explained, visualized. But I think also one of the side effects was that was the first time I started to see headlines in scientific papers that were lurid or scatological, or oh yeah, there was one in PLOS or PLOS one that was like something about feces, but I'm trying to keep our
oh,
ratings
I thought you
clean.
were being facetious when you were talking about feces.
No, no, no. They had, it was something like, something,
What?
yeah, oh yeah. And this was at a presentation, and people were like, ha ha ha, isn't this hilarious? And look at the altmetric score on it. And because it started, people were preening for attention, and authors caught on to it pretty quickly that they could drive up their score through certain behaviors, and one of them was to use naughty words in the titles of their articles. So
Mhm.
it had a pretty immediate effect on behaviors because, it's an immediate measurement, but that also means that people caught into it pretty quickly and said, okay, well, I'm gonna, I see a new incentive. I'm gonna direct my energies to optimizing it. And yeah,
Yeah.
so
And it was also introduced at the time where open access was really blossoming.
hmm
And there were a lot of new publishing models that invited open access publishing. And so it kind of went hand in hand with, if you publish open access, you're going to get more attention and you're going to get more citations.
right.
And this turned out to be a very self-fulfilling prophecy that we can see to this day.
hmm
Um,
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and like a lot of metrics, I mean, one of my first experiences with the impact factor was realizing that not all citations are positive, right?
no,
And
there's
not
there
all attention is positive.
well, I can most of the attention is not, but I won't jump ahead. But no, citations are intentional when they are intentional. But you can get cited because you're wrong. You could get cited because somebody wants to build upon aspects of what you're studying. And you can get cited just because now you're available.
Right, right. I mean, my first experience with watching citation flip from positive to negative was at the American Academy of Pediatrics. There was a pediatrician, Steinschneider, I think, who in the early 70s found a woman whose children were dying in their cribs. And he diagnosed it as sudden infant death syndrome. And it became a big thing, SIDS, right? And his paper
Hmm.
was cited like crazy. And then the AAP made all these pronouncements about SIDS and how to sleep and no, put soft bedding in with your kids and don't co-sleep and all this stuff. And then it turned out that some investigative reporters unearthed that she actually suffered from Munchausen syndrome by proxy, meaning do self harm, you do harm to others instead of doing harm to yourself. And she was killing
Hmm.
her children. And he had not caught on to that. And so when that broke, citations to his original paper went through the roof because everybody was talking about it. And so that's the kind of,
But the and
it's a
that's
lesson in there, right?
But that's a perfect example of citations. Like, if you're going to cite something, you're going to cite it because,
It's
for
substantive.
whatever reason, it could be because it's wrongity wrong wrong like that, and we want to explain that, or
Right.
maybe we want to make one citation to one little paper to turn into something really important.
hmm
And so the metrics are all over the place.
Right. And I think one of the differences, main differences with the attention economy, and especially with Altmetric, was their reliance on Twitter. And they've deprecated that since. But in the early days, they had a weighting system that made it so Twitter accounted for more than 80% of their scoring.
Hmm.
And that is problematic in a number of ways, especially because when they started in 2011, Twitter was a reverse chronology, meaning that it was pretty probably safer to measure that in a way. And then they started to introduce algorithmic, processing news feed kind of things, and if you like this, if you like that, recommendations and all of that, and it became a very programmatically manipulated list, and you couldn't account for what was being surfaced to anybody. So the attention score itself became kind of a compatibility with their algorithm score in a way. And that I think drove some other behaviors where people realized that, because a lot of those algorithms take people to the extremes, right?
Yeah.
That's because that's where they get their rewards as algorithms. Like I've been trained to drive engagement and attention and retweeting and liking and and even commenting.
Well,
And yeah,
we've seen so much of that recently. It's just like it's everybody's promoting their own paper. Like, hey, I just discovered the last little thing and I want to share this with all of LinkedIn or Instagram or
right,
Twitter. And
right.
that's become part of the job of being an academic is what I'm interpreting that to be because it's going to drive your algorithm and your score and your
Yeah.
I
And
just
and media
yeah.
promotion has always driven citations. You have to create awareness before you really get citations, but it's always been within a community, right? And now
Hmm.
it's the scores, who knows where it comes in from. And then you have all of these kind of Substack conspiracy theorist people on the fringes who are using social media and driving people to these papers, but the contextualizing it in ways, these papers in ways that are, serve their narrative, right?
Hmm.
And so, again, that's another way that the attention economy is kind of undermined because people are driving attention because they're trying to, put a narrative out about Tylenol and autism or about vaccines, Hep B vaccines, and risks to children or whatever their conspiracy of the du jour is, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's very easy to count clicks.
Hmm.
That's any robot can do that.
Right, right.
But intention, you cannot count that. And so there's a multitude of intentions behind driving content out in order to generate clicks. And that's what's going back into Altmetric. And that's, I think, what we want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, they've introduced sentiment analysis, but I don't know that that's really all that helpful. And really, to be honest, the best part of Altmetric to me is the fact how well they capture news mentions.
No, I love it. I use it all
Yeah,
the time. It's
yeah,
like it's wonderful because I'm looking at a crazy ass paper and want to look at it in context, and then I can go to Altmetric and oh yeah, it's been in a whole bunch of different news outlets around the world for
right.
weird
And it's
reason,
in
and
mostly
it
mostly
has
crazy ones.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
But back to the kind of the original instigating week of what caused us to want to talk about Altmetric is their Bluesky account is just bizarre.
yeah.
And it's gotten really bizarre. And so, and it's, and maybe we're playing the attention game by paying attention to it, and by in this podcast, but they've been acting what the kids call thirsty lately in their account.
Yeah.
I mean, doing things like, and I'll put some examples in the post on the Geyser, but reposting criticism as if they're happy to embrace it. They I know I'm being rude with this, but I take it in spirit, whoever you are. I don't know you, but they have a Russell Brand kind of looking guy that
I
they
don't
said really kind of a
understand
kind of
any
kind
of
of
it.
gross things about. It's like very thirsty. A psychedelic frog, the word unhinged to describe their webinar that their guarantee is going to be humorous, which all the best comedians, that's the word they use. Welcome to my humorous special. It's very strange.
Well, but this is all on the back of that very obviously chat GPT generated paper or the image that was generated from a paper that was published in Scientific Reports the other
Right.
day.
Yeah, that was one of the things that
And
they,
that got picked up. And
yeah,
it's just like everybody who looked at it was like, this
yeah.
is not a thing. Um,
And Altmetric's like, look at
and all that,
this is going
yeah,
to be
well,
a
it's
big
like,
score, but for the wrong reasons. Yay.
yeah, unhinged,
Yeah.
indeed.
Yeah, and then and they talk about you know hosting a conference about scientific integrity, but celebrating lack of integrity because it drives up a score for them. So it's just a confusing mess. And the other thing is their blue. I don't know what's going on internally, but their LinkedIn account's much more adult, much more, in the sense of responsible and controlled and sober-sided and, straightforward and normal, what you would kind of like, okay, that's a company that's trying to promote things that it's doing. We're now, have attention scores on podcasts and we have a sentiment analysis and, we're serious. And then you go over to the Bluesky account and it's like wobbly as all get out. I don't know what's going on over there.
Well, but I think we have to like take a step back and talk about again, Altmetric is a data gathering system that
Right.
has been perpetuated throughout the scholarly and scientific publishing platform ecosystem for
Mm-hmm.
many, many years.
Right.
And so they are gathering this data and they are putting it into their little, rainbow donuts. And, it is just like, what's the big deal? It's also part of the broader database gathering system owned by Holtzbrink
Mm-hmm.
and owned by Dimensions, and there is business on the back of this data.
Mm-hmm.
They are selling this data into corporations, into governments, um, and so we can, like it's funny that maybe scientists will care about this or not as it appears on their CVs,
Right.
but it is a massive data gathering system that was originated for one purpose, and it is now part of a bigger corporate engine that is doing something that we don't really understand.
Yeah, and I don't know how well it's being received these days because I'm reading between the lines of the Bluesky account. It feels like maybe they've lost their way a little bit, right? And so it's kind of the original goals of scientometrics were to measure, how well science is being science, right?
Yeah, and it was so cool when they came out with it. I mean, I remember it. It was so cool. It's like, let's learn more about how people use science, how scientists use science, how people are building on somebody else's idea. Let's
Mm-hmm.
put some more math around that to
Right.
understand it. It's so cool,
Right.
right? Um,
I wonder, we haven't really talked about this, but I wonder if it's you know, all of these, there's a difference between, as you know, idea and execution, right?
mhm.
So you can have a really good idea and execute it badly. Like Orchid, I think, has a really good idea, but for whatever during their entire span, they, for reasons that have to do with a lot of different factors that aren't all under their control, they haven't been able to fully realize that vision, right? Of having a that's really locked down idea that's one person, one ID for
Mhm.
researchers around the world. ISNI, the same thing. There's a whole bunch of efforts that have been made to lock in an ID. And if Altmetric were to have really measure uptake and attention just among scientists and practitioners in spaces that are, asymmetrically researchers in a small number and practitioners in a large number, that could be really interesting, right? That would be that would
Yeah.
probably really drive the predictive nature of altmetric and tie it to impact factor because then you would actually have awareness in a market.
And I think that goes back to the original intent. And
Hmm.
Paul Groth and others, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was the idea is like we
Right.
would like to measure um, scientific relevance of new discoveries in real time. And so
Hmm.
that has now been kind of fast forwarded into the skip over the journals and let's just go to preprints
Hmm.
because that's the fastest place that we can get information out. And so let's try to, measure it there. And I totally get it. It's the idea that it's like, well, let's not keep any good information back. Let's try to measure as soon as possible how people are understanding and using things,
Right.
but it's all kind of bumped up against people who are have other ideas of what to do with it.
Well, it's too easily exploited, right?
Yeah.
And but I don't know that everybody really, they've realized like a lot of these other systems that not everybody really thinks hard about what the system's limitations and potential exploitation vectors are. And so they go ahead and believe that it's actually working how, they hope it is. And I think that's maybe what's been so jarring about the Bluesky account is it contrasting it with the LinkedIn account, it's almost as if they've given up on the idea of being measured and
Hmm.
careful about gaining attention. They're just doing anything for attention, and that's where I don't think altmetrics should go. I think they should be kind of pull back and serious up about it because I think there's a lot of potential there to have an immediate,
Yeah.
something that's more current, that's more relevant, that can be easily updated and more trustworthy, but it has to be built in a way that isn't as easily exploited as this. So, and to have their
Yeah.
own people
Well,
kind of just like anything for attention, we're going to put up a psychedelic frog gif and we're going to talk about being unhinged and
I don't
how
even
funny we
understand.
are.
Can you please? I don't even understand the psychedelic frog
Well, I don't.
meme.
I'm guessing that it
Yeah.
has to do with licking frogs for psychedelic drugs.
I don't know.
I mean,
It's
I'm guessing that's where they're going with that, but it's just the craziest GIF. I'm not going to put it in the post. I'll put a still of it in the post, but
yeah. I
his
try to
eyes are
listen.
going rotating
I try to
counterclockwise and
keep up
clockwise,
with
and
what's going on in the meme, but that one
yeah.
missed me. Um, but I think it's also a um another example of the endemic aspect of the automated box of confusion
Mm-hmm.
that
Yep.
we've been talking about and writing about. It's when you plug things in,
Mm-hmm.
when you take data from one point and put it into another, then you're going to create another data set, and that data set is going to become its own commodity that can be bought, sold, argued with, or ignored.
Yep.
And so I think
I love the digital world.
and and there are so many journals who are plugged into the altmetric system for free. It probably
Mm-hmm.
didn't cost them anything,
Right.
It's just like, oh, just stick this thing on your site, and then we're just gonna like
Yep. Put this code
put
in
it in
your
your
on all your
thing.
pages. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, there's
Um,
also the other thing we've talked about, which is how like the other changes to website design that I think came about because of this, like the most cited or most, the most downloaded and all of this. And we've
mhm.
seen the abuse of those things as well, which again becomes kind of a a reinforcement loop. because then more people see them and then they click on them or they tweet about them or they share them in some way, and then it drives up the altmetric score, and then everybody thinks that it's working, but it's turns out that it's a bad study or was placed there,
Well, yeah.
or whatever. It's feeding a conspiracy theory, or it's borderline eugenics or whatever. It's
We
like
were talking about this
bad.
the other day that I don't remember the context, but it was about a certain study, and it's like, well, most of the good science is so boring. Like
Mm-hmm.
nobody's going to click on it because
Right.
you know, it's for another scientist
Yeah.
or
It's not
two or
exciting.
three, and it's not exciting. But the
Yeah.
ones that are exciting or seem exciting in this ecosystem um, are getting outsized results.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's like we talked about with Nick Evans too. You had, and you wonder how altmetric and the attention economy's thumb on the scale actually operates at an individual or even paper authorship level with a group. Because, he was talking about preprints that had surprising findings, but then after they went through peer review, those findings got tamped down or reversed to be boring. It basically predictable findings because the scientists who looked at it said, no, you don't have the data to make that kind of claim. And it's actually exactly like you'd expect. You shouldn't have sent kids to school because they'd get everybody sick. All that kind of stuff. And so I think that that's another, preprints and the attention economy. One of the things that I think, the word preprint has become is kind of the scientific version of psst.
yeah,
Hey, we've got
well,
a preprint over
exactly.
here,
No,
and it
exactly.
gains attention just even calling it a preprint.
Well, not even it is definitely and not even just in scientific spheres now. It's now taken hold
Commercial.
in commercial spheres as
Hmm.
this is a press release. This is a policy document.
Hmm.
It is something that has a DOI and it's registered somewhere and it looks like a scientific article.
Yeah,
Um,
invest in us or buy
yeah,
our thing. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Don't wait around for, something else because you're
Right.
missing out.
Right. Well, and that's, SSRN was selling, early access to the data for hedge funds
Mhm.
because they were aggregating it. Like you said, all the data becomes more data that people can use for various
And
things.
there's
And
and
who knows who's
I don't
interrogating
have
the
but I don't
preprint databases themselves to,
yeah, I
they've
don't
got
have
APIs and all that stuff. So, yeah.
I've never had a problem with early access to data. Going back years and years to
Hmm.
even like conference abstracts. It's like if
Right,
somebody wants to mine this and figure something out from it, great, you know.
right, right.
Um, but the fact that it's been conflated with peer-reviewed scientific articles
Hmm.
and and there's no way to go back from the public to say like no this is something that's new, it's something that's like halfway, and this is something that is decided. We can't come back from that, and so
Yeah.
that's where it's
Well, and it gets into the
troublesome.
boundary issue that we were talking about a minute ago. Altmetric, if the boundary were attention in science among people
Yeah,
who do science and are qualified and certified to practice
dude, that
science
would
or
be
execute
so
science, that would
cool.
be very, very
That
interesting.
would be so cool. Is even if you just ask people to like, hey, log in and tell us like who you are before
Right,
you click on this.
right. And then
That
only
would,
send Altmetric the data from people who have credentials in that field, right?
yeah,
They're physicians or they're astronomers or they're,
yeah. Or
they're
they're,
economists who, have degrees, whatever.
yeah. Why is it that everybody on the internet who clicks on a thing and or who
Or they're
writes
not bots.
or right, but also all the articles that are written about papers get equal, you know,
Waiting. Yeah.
equal rating. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it was an interesting invitation in a way to, looking at their Bluesky account. It's like, boy, these people who are peddling an attention score are really thirsty for attention themselves. And they're doing all sorts of, I mean, using words and behaviors that are kind of the worst examples of what you would use to gain attention, you know. And so we just wanted to talk about it and, you know, have an excuse to talk about metrics in general and kind of how we see that maybe there's a better way forward by, you know, having a, you know, the right boundaries around things and having something that isn't as easily gamed. And, you know, maybe there's a future there that, you know, Altmetric or others could think about, but we shall see, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess I have to admit, we both fell for it because we're talking about it. We just gave them a shit ton of attention.
And you just swore, so now I have to put a explicit tag on it. And I was doing, you know, scatological and all sorts of euphemisms for it. So,
No,
oh, joy, oh, joy, oh, joy.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
that's
Shall
okay. You
we?
and your potty mouth. All right. So, shall we do discoveries of the week?
Let's.
All right. So, discoveries of the week. I think I go first. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, mine has to do with vultures. So,
Okay.
So in India, the population of three species of vultures dropped from 1992 to 2007 from 4 million to 32,000. And it was fascinating because what it led to was tens of thousands of unnecessary human deaths.
Wait.
Yeah. So millions of vultures vanished for whatever reason, whether they were culled or chased away or shot or whatever. And then tens of thousands of humans died as a result. The reason is that vultures can pick apart a cow carcass in 30 to 40 minutes
Yes,
so efficiently that the dogs don't have time to arrive.
I agree. I've seen
And
this.
yes,
Yeah.
and then if the vultures aren't there, then the dogs come. And pretty soon the dogs population explodes. And the dogs in India aren't domesticated often, so they get rabies. And then people get bitten by dogs and get rabies. And there have been 47,000 extra human deaths from rabies because of this. And then they said that because of the resulting water contamination and disease from the rotting carcasses, that's a total of 104,000 additional human deaths they attribute to the vanishing of the vultures. And I thought it was just a fascinating little tally of, you know, this is the kind of stuff that science can tell us, right? And just the food
Right.
chain
And it's
events and
also
all of that.
something that no individual scientific paper would do. It takes lots of scientists looking at different things to pull this together.
Yeah, the analysis was published in the American Economic Review, and they looked across a whole bunch of literature, and it was an economics paper of all
Well,
things.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go, people. So next
Yeah.
time you see the buzzards in the sky, and you just thank them because they're keeping things clean for you. So
Yeah. You won't
yeah,
get rabies.
God, can you imagine? Makes me not want to go to. I mean, I love dogs, but I don't like rabid dogs.
No.
So
Yeah.
anyhow, I thought that was just a fascinating little story, and
That's a really good one that puts a lot of things into perspective. And I think I don't know that AI could figure that out.
no, no, don't think so. All right, but you've got a good one. You've been eager to share this one. I want to
Well,
hear it.
another thing that I don't think AI could figure out or explain is how important ferns are to our existence, to
Hmm.
our ecosystem.
I want to hear.
Uh,
I've got a fern. We've got a little fern grove in our backyard. I want to hear about this.
okay, so you might have a Boston fern.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, well,
That would make sense.
once you listen to this podcast, you might think about it differently. So I listened this morning to the Ologies podcast with Ali
Yeah,
Ward,
yeah.
and her interview was with Dr. Fei Li, who's currently at Duke. He's from Taiwan, but he grew up fascinated with ferns.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know anything about botany or biology, ferns are very curious in
They are.
terms of how they reproduce and they've been around since the beginning of time and things like that. So they're
They're
very fascinating plants.
they are. They're fascinating. Even our little grove of them is fascinating to watch through
Hmm.
all sorts of different. We had a drought one summer and they all turned black and shriveled up and I thought they're gone.
Right.
And they came back the next year better than ever. And I'm like, what in the
Yeah.
world? These things are crazy.
Well, I learned so many things from this podcast. Apparently, the most um, exciting place for ferns is in the desert, the ones
What?
that live off of no water. And then there's also New Zealand, which has double the amount of ferns as anywhere on the planet.
Okay.
And so there's a lot to
Huh.
learn there. And
Yeah.
but I think my favorite part, and I think I might have read about this before, maybe you had seen it too, is that they discovered a new um genus of ferns, and the genetic code was GA. So Lady Gaga has her own fern,
Oh, wow.
and
Of course
she,
she does.
yeah.
She's
So
also a fascinating
yes,
creature.
and
So, yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
so it fit perfectly.
Yeah. She thrives
And
in many environments as well.
yes. So anyway, learn about ferns, buy a fern, keep a fern.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and I think you also mentioned that when you kind of prepped me for this, that the government funding of research into ferns was kind of a fascinating angle too, right?
Yeah, no, thank you for reminding me. Yeah, because at the very end of the interview, they talk about government funding for basic science and
Hmm.
how it's drying up. And you think about like funding for ferns, like they've literally been around since the planet. Like,
Right.
why are we paying more attention to this or putting more money into it? And so cutting back on basic funding for things like understanding how these prehistoric plants with very interesting genetics and for our human brains, unlimited potential for understanding, the world around us. That funding drying up is, it's going to put us back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad. Sad and unnecessary. Self own on that one. Yeah, because I mean, you have to, if you think about it, right? And the fact that they've thrived for so long should be a hint that they're worth studying.
Yeah, yeah,
If you
they're
if
good.
you're interested in humans doing well on the planet for a long time, you should probably borrow a couple of lessons from the things that have learned how
From the
to slip a
prehistoric
lot of
plants?
nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, they found their way through a few, things, a few catastrophes. So let's look at what they did. So that's awesome. I'm going to listen to that. The Ologies podcast, right?
Yeah, it's a good one. Allie Ward does a great job. I really like the way she engages with scientists and researchers and pulls out like, why should we care about science? I think she's one of the best science communicators without trying to like force science on
Hmm.
people who don't want to hear it, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense.
Yeah. So we'll put some links in the show notes too, since you pulled some out. So be awesome. All right. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Thanks to our friends at Provoke the Truth for the music. And as always, let us know what you think. You can also keep up with developments at the Geyser, where you can subscribe to support our efforts. Finally,
Please
you can
do.
please do before the end of
Yeah.
the year while you have some budget left, throw us some money. And
Yeah.
finally, you can reach us at disruptedscience@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And thanks for listening.
Thanks so much.